This is Land of Havilah, Isaiah 31. The chapter is another warning from Yahweh that Judah shouldn't ask Egypt for help. At the time, allying with Egypt made perfect sense. Without Egypt, it would seem Judah didn't have a chance. But not so, says Yahweh. You don't need Egypt. I'll defeat the Assyrians for you. Verse 1. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help and rely on horses and trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they're very strong. But they don't look to the Holy One of Israel, and they don't seek Yahweh. Yet he also is wise and will bring disaster, and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers and against the help of those who work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When Yahweh stretches out his hand, both he who helps shall stumble, and he who is helped shall fall, and they shall all be consumed together. Comment in verses 1 to 3, Yahweh says, Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help, who rely on military but not Yahweh. They seek Egypt but not God. In verse 2, Yahweh is wise. He knows what he's talking about. He'll bring disaster on evildoers who consult with Egypt. He'll oppose any Egyptian help. He'll make sure that help backfires on you. In verse 3, the Egyptians are men and not God. Their horses are flesh and not spirit. If you rely on Egypt, Yahweh will stretch out his hand, and the Egyptians and the Judeans shall fall together. Both the helper and the helped shall be consumed. Isaiah goes on, verse 4. For Yahweh says to me, as the lion and the young lion growling over his prey, if a multitude of shepherds is called together against him, will not be dismayed at their voice, nor abase himself for their noise, so Yahweh of armies will come down to fight on Mount Zion and on its heights. As birds hovering, so Yahweh of armies will protect Jerusalem. He'll protect and deliver it. He'll pass over and preserve it. Return to him from whom you've deeply revolted, children of Israel. Comment in verses 4 and 5, Yahweh says, when a lion is standing over his prey and a large group of shepherds come at him trying to run him off, he won't be afraid of their shouts. He'll guard what's his. He won't slink off, defeated, with his head down. He'll stand composed and confident. So Yahweh stands over you because you're his. He won't be intimidated by the size of their army. He won't be intimidated by their threats. He'll stand against the many Assyrians without fear and fight for you on the heights of Mount Zion. As birds circle in the sky, so Yahweh will circle over you and protect you, Jerusalem. He'll protect and deliver you. He'll hover over you and preserve you. Now in that day, verse 7, for in that day everyone shall cast away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, sin which your own hands have made for you. The Assyrian will fall by the sword, not of man, and the sword, not of mankind, shall devour him. He'll flee from the sword, and his young men will become subject to forced labor. His rock will pass away by reason of terror, and his princes will be afraid of the banner, says Yahweh, whose fire is in Zion and his furnace in Jerusalem. Comment in verses 7 and 9, quote, for in that day everyone shall cast away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, end quote. That day will come. It's not if they cast their idols away, but in that day you will cast your idols away. So, like most or all of Isaiah's passages that start with in that day, this 3-verse section has an end times feel to it, like there be such a thorough reformation in Israel, such an end to corruption, that it's the kingdom age, the millennium, the reign of the Messiah, whatever we want to call it. After the crucifixion and resurrection, the disciples asked the risen Jesus, Lord, are you now restoring the kingdom to Israel? Acts 1:7. Given the context of the question, Jesus didn't answer that the kingdom is already within you or the kingdom is at hand, as he said so many other times. He didn't indicate that the Christian age was what the prophets meant by the kingdom. He didn't say that him ruling in the hearts of Christians was what the prophets meant by Messiah ruling and occupying the throne of David. Rather, in his answer, he left room for the fulfillment of the reams of Old Testament prophecy, which must be fulfilled, every jot and tittle, that one day he would abolish all earthly authority, set up his throne on Zion, rule the earth directly with a rod of iron, and fulfill all the other specifics of the Messianic prophecies. since the question was, are you now restoring the kingdom to Israel? And since the question didn't have anything to do with the Gentiles in the minds of the disciples who asked it, his answer wasn't, you're mistaken, there won't be a revived kingdom of Israel. Rather, his answer was, quote, it isn't for you to know the times or seasons which the Father has set with his own authority. So the answer was basically the kingdom of Israel is coming, but not yet. Many times when Isaiah says, in that day, your narrator envisions short-term fulfillments and more fulfillments in the millennium. He envisions the direct rule of Christ on earth from Zion in the reconstituted Israel, the Israel of the future in which all Israelites have been saved, Romans 11:26. An era completely different from the age in which we now live, not an era of the ancient past, whenever Israel might have repented a little bit from time to time. If someone reads a prophecy and envisions a fulfillment of it in the future, that's a futurist view of that prophecy. If he thinks the prophecy was fulfilled in the past, that's a preterist view, preterist meaning a perspective that looks back. When someone believes a prophecy has already been fulfilled in the past and that it will have more fulfillment in the future, that's both a preterist and futurist view of that prophecy. When some read in Isaiah about that day, they take a preterist view of it, that God's speaking of the glorious day of the Christian era when Christ rules in the hearts of some men, that the prophecy of that day is a thing of the past and present, that it's a prophecy of the Christian era in which we now live. But to your narrator, that's a wholly inadequate and unbelieving view of prophecy. Your narrator takes a futurist view of the millennium. In verse 8, Yahweh says, the Assyrian will fall by the sword, not of man, end quote, meaning God himself would make the Assyrians fall, no help from man. As we've already said many times, God made the Assyrians fall by killing their troops in the field during Isaiah's lifetime in 701 BC, which had nothing to do with man. In verse 8, the Assyrian will flee from the sword, but not the sword of mankind. It was the sword of God, not a literal sword, but just the fact that 185,000 of them went to sleep in the field in a single night and didn't wake up the next morning, 2 Kings 19:35. And in verse 8, the Assyrian young men, quote, will be subject to forced labor, end quote. We might assume that when the Babylonians, Medes, and Scythians destroyed the Assyrians about 90 years later, between 627 and 612 BC, many of them were put to forced labor, as was common practice in ancient wars. In verse 9, his rock will pass away by reason of terror. Rock is also translated stronghold or strength. It means Assyria's strength would pass away by reason they'd be terrorized of Yahweh. Then his princes will be afraid of the banner, meaning afraid of anything having to do with Judah and Yahweh. His fire is in Zion and his furnace in Jerusalem, meaning attack Jerusalem and get burned. Yahweh will burn you. Isaiah 32 is next.